that was the wrong intro. Sorry about that. Where is my intro for this one? I don't know how that happened. Here we go. Sorry about that. Okay, so now that you got the correct intro, I don't know how that happened. I had it on the right one. It did something weird while I wasn't looking. Okay, so anyways, thank you for joining me today. Please know that, this is Crime in Court, and my name is Heather. I'm a fairly new channel, so I'm actually, if you guys give this video a like, that would be great. If you could also subscribe. I'm really trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. It's a goal of mine, so if you guys could help me out, that would be awesome. So anyways, I am going to, this particular episode, this live stream, is going to be I'm going to read through the deposition of Roberta Laundrie. So I just posted today on my channel a little brief video about the current civil suit that the Petitos had against the Laundries. If you're not aware, the Laundries may or may not have known some things potentially about where Gabby's body was, but they never divulged it if they did know anything. So we're going to actually read through the deposition of Roberta Laundrie. I'm going to do on a separate stream, I'll do Christopher Laundrie, but today's Roberta. And this is just basically, saying from the defendant, Stephen Bertolino, notice of filing deposition. So I'm not going to read that first page. I don't want to read all of this. This is kind of like an intro, but I'm just going to take you through. So it's the deposition of Roberta Laundrie, counsel for plaintiffs. We've got Amy E. Roberts for the plaintiffs. These are all the lawyers that are there. So Patrick J. Riley, Ryan L. Gilbert, Charles L. Meltz, and also present Joe Petito, Nicole Schmidt via Zoom video conference, Christopher Laundrie, and Stephen Bertolino. We also have, she has received the oath, Roberta Laundrie, and then these are the exhibits that they may talk about throughout. So we've got AT&T phone records, some unmarked exhibit, Bertolino's statement, which was from 9/14/21, a Stafford letter to Mr. and Mrs. Laundrie dated 9/15, some tweets, a handwritten note to Brian Laundrie from Roberta Laundrie. That is the burn after reading note. We've got the affidavit of Roberta Laundrie and then an email from Roberta Laundrie. So let's get started. Thereupon, Roberta Laundrie was adduced as the deponent herein, and being personally known to the notary, was then duly sworn an oath, and was questioned and states as follows. The witness, yes. Direct examination, Mr. Riley, by Mr. Riley. So, good morning, Ms. Laundrie. Good morning. Would you state your name for the record, please? You know what? I'm going to actually zoom in a little bit, too, because now we've got to be shifting around. All right, so state your name for the record, Roberta Laundrie. Ms. Laundrie, you've sat through your husband's deposition yesterday, and I have taken your deposition in the past, and I gave instructions then, and I gave instructions to your husband yesterday. Do you need me to repeat those? She says, no. Okay, what is your address? She provides it. Have you ever been known by any other name than Roberta Laundrie? She provides her maiden name. What is it? Roberta Vinci, V-I-N-C-I. What is your date of birth? She provides it. How old are you? 58. You're currently married to Christopher Laundrie. Yes. Did he have the year right? Or did he must have said the year that they were married, and he was questioning whether he was right about it, because He asks, did you have the year right? Or he didn't remember the year. What's the date of your marriage? She says July 11th, 1986. What is your current phone number? She provides it. In the past 5 years, have you had any other phone number? She says yes and provides that. I'm actually not quite sure how long I had that number, but I had that. Any other numbers? Not that I can recall. How about one ending in 6105? She says, yeah, I think that was another cell number that I had. I don't remember when. It does ring a bell. All right. Mr. Gilbert says, Mr. Riley, would you repeat the number that you just blurted out? So he repeats it again. It ends in 6105. By Mr. Riley. And you said that was a prior cell phone number of yours. I believe so. Okay, and you have 3 numbers for Brian, and one ends in 1787. Do you recognize that number? I recognize it, but it's not Brian's. How about this one that ends in 3557? That's my old number. And what about the one ending in 1783? Yes, I believe that one was Brian's. And he also had another number, correct? I believe so. Do you know what that was? No. When he returned from out west on September 1st, at some point after that, did you and he go to get another phone number? She says yes. When was that? I don't remember the date, but it was, I believe, the first week that he returned home. Why did he need a new phone? He didn't say. Okay, do you know what happened to his old phone? No, I don't. Do you know what happened, or do you know what kind of phone he had previously? No, I don't. Did he ever own a tablet of any kind? I don't believe so. Are you currently employed? No. When is the last time you were employed? I retired in 2020, December. From where? Suffolk County. And what did you do for Suffolk County? I worked in the offices of Water Resources. What did you do there? Secretary. For how long? 15 years. Did you ever have any involvement in C&R Specialty Services, Inc.? Yes. What was your involvement in that? Same kind of thing, secretary, paperwork. How about Juice Fountain, Inc.? No. Do you know Mr. Bertolino? Yes. And how do you know him? We're friends from Bayport, Long Island. So that's their lawyer, Bertolino. How long have you known him? Over 30 years. When you say you're friends, how close of friends was your family with his family? Oh, I believe we were close. Our children played and we spent time together socially. Prior to 2021, did Mr. Bertolino ever represent you in anything? She says yes. When did he represent you? Or what did he represent you in? The sale and purchase of a couple of homes, a few homes we bought. So he must be like real estate. Do you recall if you ever signed a fee agreement with Mr. Bertolino? A fee agreement? I'm not sure if it was a fee agreement, but I don't know. Okay, then the sales and purchase of homes. Did he represent you in any other capacity? I believe he did our wills. I think that's what I can remember. And your husband testified yesterday about some investment properties. Were you involved with investment properties with Mr. Bertolino? Yes, my husband was. You were not? So I guess I don't think I was involved in that. What's your understanding of the investment relationship? I believe that Stephen bought and sold homes, and my husband would invest money, and when they fixed the home and sold it, my husband would get his money back with interest or whatever they made on the sale of the house, something like that. Okay, that's my best understanding of it. What was Brian's birthday? It was in 97. I think yesterday your husband said 98, so that was incorrect. I don't know what he said, but I think it was incorrect, but I know it's 97. Okay, prior to Gabby, did he have any girlfriends? Not that I am aware of. So he never brought anyone home? No, just lots of friends, but I can't name a specific person that he introduced as a girlfriend. Did he ever have any issues at school? No. Okay, never got in trouble at school? No. Ever in any fights that you're aware of? No. Did he have any anger issues? No. Did he have a temper? No. Describe him, if you would, for me, please. For the 5 years prior to 2021, tell me about him. He's a very sweet boy, kind, considerate, loving. He loved his nephews. He loved his sister. He loved us. He had a lot of friends that he was friendly with. Friends that he was friendly with. He was a good boy, hard worker, and I could go on and on. He was wonderful. Was he ever fired from a job he had? Not that I know of. Did you ever hear anyone suggest that he was physically abusive in any way? Not at all. When did you first meet Gabby Petito? She came to our apartment in Medford in, I guess, the late summer or fall of 2019. 2019? I believe so. It's hard for me to, because we moved here in 2020, so it could have been 2020. I'm not sure. What was the address in Medford? It was the address redacted, but I don't have the exact address, and that's the apartment complex. What were the circumstances of Gabby coming to your home at that time? I just remember Brian brought her over one day, and we met her, and he introduced her as Gabrielle. I don't remember if he said the word girlfriend, but he introduced her and said we met her, and then a week or so later, we all went out to dinner and just kind of slowly got to know her. What was your understanding of their relationship at that time? I just assumed it was his girlfriend. Did he ever announce to you that she was his girlfriend? No, not officially, but I just, bringing her around and hanging around, I just assumed it was his girlfriend. So this was in the fall of 2019. When did you move to Florida? December of 2020. And I'm sorry, it could have been 2020 I met her. I'm sorry, I don't remember. How soon after you met Gabby did you move to Florida? Oh gosh, was it 3 to 6 months, or was it a year and 3 to 6 months? I guess a year, because there was COVID. COVID was 2020, beginning of 20. So yes, it was a year. So we must have met her in 2019. Okay, so it was a year. Took a lot to get there to figure out if it was 2020 or 2019. And over the period of time from the first time you met her in the summer of fall of 2019 until you moved to Florida in 2020, how often would you see her? Oh, we came to visit once or twice. When you say came to visit, are you talking about there came a time when they moved to Florida? Yes, during COVID, they were living in Florida and we visited. My daughter lives there, so we visited my daughter. We visited my son. We took a little beach vacation. Do you know when they moved to Florida? When Brian and Gabrielle moved to Florida, it was around December of 2020. I would say it was December. Well, you moved there in December of 2020. Oh, goodness gracious. And they were already living there, but I thought you said COVID was 2000. COVID was early March of 2020. And so when COVID hit, they were just living together for a few months. Where? We bought ourselves a little investment condo, and they moved into it here in Northport. So what was the question now? When did they move to Florida? Just before COVID began. I'd say a few months before COVID. COVID began in March. I believe so. Yeah, so I think around December or January of that year. What's the address of the place they were living? That was redacted. Is that Boulevard? I don't know. That's in Northport. Yes. And that's property you and your husband had just purchased? Yes. Okay, so how long did you live there? About a year. Prior to the time that they moved to Florida, how often would you see Gabby? Prior to moving to Florida, just a handful of times. What was your impression of Gabby? Very sweet. Okay, how would you as you've described Brian, how would you describe Gabby? Describe her? Sweet, cheerful, friendly, warm, affectionate, kind, thoughtful, just a really nice girl. What was your relationship with her during that period of time? Very friendly. We'd laugh and joke and talk, and I think we really just liked each other. What did you observe about the relationship between Brian and Gabby? I thought they were very sweet together, very playful together. They enjoyed each other, and I thought it was nice. A nice, good relationship. Did your relationship with Gabby ever change over time? No, well, we got closer as we knew each other longer and longer. I'm sorry, say that again? As we knew each other longer and longer, we grew closer and we really cared for each other. I cared for her. I believe she cared for me too. She always said so. Did you love her? Yes. Were you jealous of her relationship with Brian? No. Do you recall an incident in which you threw a pie or a cake away? I didn't remember it until you mentioned it yesterday, and I didn't throw the pie away. It was silly, and my feelings got hurt over a comment on the pie, and I did apologize to Gabrielle, because I think my feelings were hurt, and I was sulky, but I thought it was all forgotten, and we were fine after that. But I was a little sulky that night. So something happened. She got mad about something over a pie and threw the pie out. And the next day, everything was fine, and I apologized, and she was fine, and I thought I'd forgotten all about it until it came up yesterday, and I felt really bad. But I really thought nothing of it, and I thought she thought nothing of it too. Well, that was the comment that was, what was the comment that was upsetting you? I don't remember if it was a comment so much. It was, I had made dinner and I had made this pie and I was excited about my pie and to present it on the table. My mother was visiting and I think I was just exhausted from all the people in the house. And when I put the pie down, I think there was a comment. I think there was just a little ruckus at the table where it's so silly, but nobody made a nice comment. I guess it was a lack of comment. Nobody said, "Oh, nice pie." And I know that it's so silly and I regret it, but I got annoyed. I don't know why I got so annoyed at kind of everybody and a little bit at Gabrielle, and it was silly and I felt bad. I don't even remember it. I vaguely remember it. I just remember it was a pie and I was embarrassed, but I didn't throw out the pie. We ate the pie, but it was just, I don't know. I behaved not nicely, and I apologized to Gabrielle. She was very nice about it, and we were fine after that. And what was it about Gabrielle that annoyed you? It was nothing specific that annoyed me about Gabrielle. We lived together, and there were little things. I'm sure I annoyed her too, but like anything, even when I spend time with my daughter, who I love, but nothing big, nothing, normal everyday things. But I think we had a wonderful relationship, and I felt she loved me. I loved her, and I felt very bad about the pie coming up. So they moved to the property in Northport, or whatever boulevard property it is, and lived there about a year. Yes. And why did they leave the apartment? Well, we were letting them live there for free, but it was supposed to be a rental property, and we bought it. We purchased it to rent out, but the condo association said they can't rent it out for a year. I don't know. That was their rule. So we said, all right, rather than just stay empty for a year, Brian and Gabrielle can live in it. And so after the year passed, Brian said, well, you guys probably want to rent it out now. And we said, no, stay there. That's fine. He said, no, we don't want to stay there if you guys want to rent it out. And then he wanted to live with us too. He thought it would be nice for Gabrielle to live with us. And then we ended up selling the condo. And then they moved to address redacted with you. Yes. How long did they live there? From about January until May of 2021, yes. And they lived there full time, yes. Did you ever see any disagreements or arguments between the two of them? No. Did you ever see anything about their relationship that concerned you? No. When did they get engaged? They had gone on a little trip, and I remember it was on a trip that he gave her a ring, and I don't remember the date. Do you have was it sometime between January and May of 2021? No, because I believe I was in New York still when they told me over the phone, so it was before that. So it was prior to January of 2021. Yes. You said they took a trip. Where did they go? I don't remember. How long were they gone? I don't remember. Did you speak with them during your trip? Or during that trip? No, usually if people were on vacation or a trip, I never bother people when they're away. So, well, I guess this is an extended trip, like a month or more. Or was it just a few weeks? I cannot remember the trip. I just remember him. I remember that they were away when they got engaged. That's all I can remember. When you found out that they got engaged, what was your reaction? I thought it was very sweet, and I was very happy for them. Did you have any concerns about them getting engaged at a young age? No, because they were just well suited, and I was married at a young age, and I don't know. What do you mean they were well suited? I don't know. They got along so well. They both liked art and drawing, and I don't know. They just seemed like a good pair. What would you observe when they lived with you? The two of them doing. What would you observe when they lived with you? The two of them doing together. What kinds of things did they do? I don't know, just regular stuff. Occasionally, they'd go off on a hike, or they'd go shopping, go grab something to eat. They'd go for walks at night. Prior to the time that Brian brought Gabby to your house in 2019, what was your relationship like with Brian? Prior to? Wonderful. We were very close. Good relationship. Did you do things together? Yes. What did you do together? Everything. Go to the store, go for hikes, go on vacation, watch TV. Did your relationship with Brian change after he started dating Gabby? No, I don't think it changed. Did you still continue to do all those things together with him? Well, by then he was living in Florida, and I was in New York, so we would just talk on the phone now and then and visit. So how often, when he lived in Florida while you were in New York, would you speak with him? I can't say, just every once in a while. Well, was it every week? No, every 2 weeks. It was random. I mean, we could talk one day and the following day and then not talk for 2 weeks. It was just random. Did he ever tell you during the period of time about any issues he and Gabby were having? No. How about when they lived together? Did he tell you about any issues that they were having? No. In 2021, did you become aware that they were going to take a trip? Yes. How did you become aware of that? Oh, about a little less than a week before they were leaving, we discovered that they had moved stuff into storage, and then they were fixing up their van. We sort of put two and two together, and we think they're going away. How did you discover they were moving things into storage? I think Chris found a receipt, and then I think we asked them about the receipt, and they said, yeah, they moved stuff into storage. Did they say why they moved stuff into storage? No. How much stuff did they move into storage? Well, everything, because eventually at some point I looked in the room and there was nothing. Nothing was left. Well, what kind of, are you talking about furniture, clothing? What are you talking about? Well, everything. They had a 2-bedroom. They had a bedroom. It was a 3-bedroom house, so they had 2 of the bedrooms, and one was their bedroom, and the other one was like a couch with a TV, and they used it as a living room and a bathroom. So they had their own side. So I don't know if it was after they left or right before they left. There was nothing in any of the rooms, just the couch and TV. Personal belongings, everything was gone? Were you surprised that they'd moved stuff? Well, I already knew about the storage unit, and we saw them working on the van, so no, I wasn't surprised. But do you know why they decided to move into storage as opposed to just leaving it in the house? No, and that's why I had asked my son. After they were on the trip, I suggested to him, why don't you just store it here? I don't know why why you're paying a storage unit. That was my idea. I said, why are you paying for a storage unit? We have an empty room. Everything we could, it was the size of the storage unit, the bedroom. We could pile up the boxes in there. But we didn't want to inconvenience. he didn't want to inconvenience us, and we said we don't mind. It's just a room. And you said that they were fixing it up the van. What did they do? Well, Brian was converting it into like a camper van. Do you know where they got the van? No. Do you know whose name the van was titled in? Yes. Whose name? Gabrielle. When did you learn that? I guess I saw the title. I don't remember. When did you see it? Don't remember. Before? Oh, but I knew pretty early on. Before they left? Yes. Okay. Did you discuss the trip with them? Where were they going? How long they were going to be? Things of that nature? No, I didn't discuss it with them directly, but Chris had told me that they were, no, I did. I remember Gabrielle telling me too. Her brother was graduating and she was going to go. They were going to camp their way down. I don't remember who told me, whether it was Brian, Chris, or Gabby, but they were going to camp their way down. But I do remember Gabrielle telling me her brother was graduating. She wanted to go to her brother's graduation. At this time, did your husband have a closer relationship with Brian than you? I would say we were both close with Brian. Was it your understanding that they were only traveling up to New York? At that time, yes. When did you learn that they were going out west? When they didn't come back for a while. My daughter had seen a post. I don't know if it was Snapchat. I don't know what thing they used. And she took a screenshot of it and sent it to me. And she said, oh, look, they're out west. Do you remember where they were at that point? No. Do you know how long after they had left your home in Florida that it was discovered they were out west? No, sometime over the summer. Was it a month? Maybe a month? Before they left, did you give any indication if they were planning, did they give you any indication if they were planning on returning to Florida? No indication either way. I didn't know. Okay, so you weren't concerned about that. Well, not concerned. They're adults and, that's their life, and I wasn't concerned. That's a little weird. I would be like, you didn't tell me you weren't coming back. And if I asked you this, I apologize. How soon after they left? Tell me. When did they leave Florida? Do you know? Yes, I remember it was early in June, like the 1st or 2nd, very early in June of 2021. Yes. And when you discovered that they were out west, how soon after, strike that, when you learned that they were out west, how long was it after they'd left your home? I'm not positive, but I would say a month. That's just an approximate. Did you speak to Brian during that month period? No, I don't think I spoke with Brian all summer, but I could be wrong. We might have spoken quickly or texted. I don't recall. Was it unusual for you to go for such a long period of time without speaking to him? No. The last time he took a trip, he didn't speak until we didn't speak until he got back. Do you know if your husband spoke with him during the month interval? I recall that he called for Father's Day, I believe. After you learned from your daughter that they were out west, did you call Brian and say, hey, where are you going? What are you doing? I can't recall. I probably did, but I can't say for certain. I'm sure I must have called or texted. I can't remember if he called or texted back. I don't remember. And you don't know what the purpose of their trip out west was. At the time, I didn't know for sure. I just assumed they were out west again because they had done it once before. They had taken a cross-country road trip. So I said, oh, I guess they're taking another country trip. The one that they took before, I think that's the one you told me about in 2020, yes? Yes. So do you know when, or do you know where they went on that trip? I remember they showed us pictures, and I know it was out west, but I don't remember. Your husband mentioned Oregon yesterday. Do you know if they went out to Oregon on that first trip? Yeah, I remember. I heard him say that too, and it did ring a bell. I was like, oh yeah, Oregon. I remember hearing something about Oregon. And do you know why they went to Oregon? I thought Gabrielle said that she had a relative, or that they stopped by on a relative, or or a friend of her mother's. I don't really remember. Do you ever, prior to August of 2021, did you express any concern to Brian or Gabby about the trip? The first trip, no. Sorry, my dogs bark and it's loud, so I gotta pause my mic. They're still barking downstairs, but at least it's not in the same room anymore. Sorry about that. Alright, so I thought Gabrielle said that she had a relative. I don't really remember. Did you ever, prior to August of 2021, express any concern to Brian or Gabby about the trip? The first trip? No, the second trip. Did I express concern? I'll rephrase the question. With regard to the 2021 trip, prior to August 25th or 24th of 2021, did you express any concerns to Brian or Gabby about the trip? I think right before Brian left, I was kind of disappointed because I was like, another trip. I thought, you guys were going to live here and save your money and get a house, but he was like, it's not going to be that much because we're going to stay in the van. And that was my only concern. I thought he wanted to save money for a house. I was a little disappointed, but he was like, it's not going to cost that much. And we have the van, so there's a lot of free camping out there. And I just felt better about it. That was my only concern. When you said before they left, when you said before they left, do you mean before they left your home in early June of 2021? Well, that's right. I guess I did have an idea that he would be going longer than the graduation. I think I suspected he was going longer than the graduation, although he didn't come. So Gabby's brother's graduation, although he didn't come right out and say it because he was fixing up the van. I had a feeling. First, I thought he was fixing up the van just to do weekend trips, but between the storage and fixing up the van, I thought he was going for longer. And right before he left, I just thought that he was going for another trip like he did before. It might be for long, but I didn't know for sure. It's foggy. I'm sorry. That time is just 2 years ago, and it's a little foggy, and I am having trouble with but I think that's right. I think I got it right. Have you ever been diagnosed with memory issues? No. Or cognitive issues? It's not a memory issue. It's just, it was 2 years ago, and so much has happened, and I'm just trying to remember exactly. When you said they modified the van, can you tell me what they did? I remember looking in it once when he was working on it, and it looked like there was a platform. There was some shelves coming down. They were making it so they could camp in it. A little shelf for a table and a platform, they put a little rug in it, made it comfortable. Was there a mattress in the van? I did see one. Did you or your husband assist in any way with the work that was done in the van? No, I don't think so. I think, he used my husband's tools and everything in the garage, but if I recall your testimony correctly, and please tell me if I'm wrong, they left in early June. You didn't talk to Brian until you learned they were on the trip out west, correct? I don't remember the first time I talked to Brian once they left. I just can't recall. And how often after that would you speak with him? Not much at all. They were on a trip. I wasn't hearing from him. I would ask my daughter if she heard from him, and I don't know. I just assumed that they didn't have cell service. Why didn't you try to call him? I think I did. I'm sure I must have texted or called. Do you know if your husband spoke with him? Yeah, I believe they spoke on Father's Day, and I think there were other times that we spoke. It was just, we didn't speak a lot because he was on a trip. At any time, did you become aware of any incidents between Brian and Gabby? No. In particular, on August 12th, there was an incident at Moab where the police were contacted. This was the incident on the side of the road when the Moab police came, and they were called for a DV incident. and they basically just separated him for the night, or told him to separate for the night. So in particular, on August 12th, there was an incident in Moab where the police were contacted. When did you learn about that? When it was on TV whenever it had televised on TV. I guess that was September or October of 2021, whenever they put it on TV. So Brian never contacted you about that incident? No. Did you ever discuss it with Brian? No, because I didn't know about it until after Brian was deceased. He was deceased by the time I saw it on TV. So Brian came home on August 17th of 2021, correct? Yes. Why did he come home? I had suggested he empty out the storage unit and save some money so that he had, so he said great, and he did that. And I don't know if that was his main reason, but that's what I think it was, also to visit us and visit his nephews, empty out his storage unit. How much did the storage unit cost him a month? I don't know. Did he pay for his airline ticket? I don't know. I assume we didn't pay for it. Well, that's fair enough. So, yeah. So neither you nor your husband paid for it, right? In your understanding, before he flew home on the 17th, did you know he was coming home? Yes. And he told you that he was coming home to move things out of the storage unit? Yes. Did he say why? Save money. Oh, because they were going to be longer than they originally, I guess, planned. What do you mean? I don't even know what was originally planned. What do you mean by that? Longer meaning? Well, I guess he thought maybe that they would only be gone a little while and store it. I don't know. I can't guess. Maybe he'd only store it for a while, and now I guess they were going to extend their trip, so now he might as well put it back in the home. What did he tell you about extending their trip? That he discovered a place where you could work. Not be paid, but you would get to keep your van there for free, camp there. And while you were working for them, you would learn about some farming. Where were they going? Some kind of like commune where you farm and I don't know, and camp your little van. It was some sort of farming co-op, or I don't know what they called it, but him and Gabrielle were going to work there and learning about farming and be able to park their van for free. And I thought that sounded great, and I was excited about that. And where was that? Somewhere out west. You don't know where? No. Did they tell you about how long it would be before they came back east? Well, they were going to help this farm these pumpkins and sell them for this farm, and then after that it was sort of up in the air what they would do after that. So did you discuss when Brian was home, because he came home, like he flew home in the middle of his trip with Gabby unexpectedly after this Moab incident, and then he went back out to meet with Gabby. Did you discuss when Brian was coming home on August 17th, during that time frame? Did you discuss with him his relationship with Gabby? No. Did he mention Gabby at all? Not that I can recall. No specific conversation I can recall. Did you ask about Gabby? Not that I recall. I think during that trip, I talked on the phone with Gabrielle, but I don't think I said, how's Gabrielle? I think I just asked Gabrielle herself, how are you? How long was Brian home? About a week. Okay, do you recall the date when he flew back west? No. Do you recall where he flew into? Salt Lake City, I believe. Okay. Did he stay with you when he came home? Yes. What was your understanding of the relationship between Brian and Gabby at the point in time when he came back home in mid-August? My understanding of the relationship was just that they were still together and still dating. And did he express to you any concerns about Gabby? No. He didn't tell you about the Moab incident. But did he tell you whether or not they were having difficulty getting along? No. He didn't say anything like that. He didn't say anything about any arguments between them? No. He said, is it fair to say he said nothing that caused you any concern about the relationship? Yeah, I had no concern. What was his demeanor and his attitude when he came home at that point in time? We had a very nice week, and he was happy to see his nephews and his sister, and he seemed fine. When he left to go back to Salt Lake City, what was his attitude and demeanor? As I recall, he was just fine, nothing specific. Was he excited about going back? Yeah, he was just going back. I don't know. He wasn't excited. He wasn't upset. He was just going back, and I think he was looking forward to his farming in the fall, and everything seemed good. Other than telephone, while Brian, was on the trip with Gabby, did you communicate with him in any other way? Can you say that again? Sure. Other than by telephone, while Brian was on his trip from June through September 1st of 2021, other than by telephone, did you communicate with him in any other way? I don't recall. I might have emailed him, but that was pretty much either we talked on the phone, texted, but he wasn't much of an emailer, so I would only email him if it was I thought he might not look at it for a while because I didn't know what kind of reception he would have when he or if he checked his email. So I would either text or call. So for you to email him would be unusual. Yeah, I did email him now and then, but not much. We weren't really emailers. And we asked for copies of any email exchanges that you had with him through Discovery. Is there a reason why you didn't provide any? I didn't think there were any, and if there were, I'm sure I provided them. Did you look? Yeah, we looked for everything. We looked for everything and provided everything. Okay, you said you texted him. Did you keep the copies? Strike that. Did you keep the text messages in your phone? Yes, I have. I don't delete any, but sometimes my phone after a while deletes messages. Do you still have the text messages between you and Brian? No, because when he bought a new phone and I answered his new number, it automatically erased all those old texts. I don't know. I didn't know it was going to do that. I didn't realize. Did you try to recover them? No, I didn't even know you could and how to go about doing that. So your testimony is that after he bought a new phone, it deleted all of the texts on your phone from his. Strike that. Your testimony is that when he bought a new phone, all the text communications between Brian and you, which were on your phone, were deleted. Yes. Because when I put in the new phone number, I don't know, it just did it. I put a new phone number in for Brian, and if I had added him as another Brian, like Brian 1, Brian 2, I probably would have kept it, but because I added a new number, it just deleted all the old texts. That doesn't make sense that it would do that. Plaintiff's Exhibit 1 marked for identification. I'm going to hand you what I've marked as Exhibit 1 for today's deposition, which I'll represent to you are phone records that we've received for your cell phone from AT&T. And if you look on the first page underneath the line across the top, three lines down, it says voice usage for number ending in 3557. That's your phone number, right? Okay. So I look at the first page and I go down 4 lines. There's a line all the way across the top of the page, right? This. Yes. If you go 3 lines down from that, it says voice usage for. Oh, got it. And is that your phone number? Yes. Okay, turn the page to page 15 and let me know when you're there. Oh, I'm there. Okay, there's an item at the top and it has numbers. I want you to look at line 231. Okay, and according to this record, on August 5th of 2021, Brian called you and you spoke for 54 minutes. On August 5th? So we did talk. That was August 5th, 2021. Okay, so we did talk. That was a pretty long conversation. Do you recall what you and he talked about during that call? Not at all. I guess just catching up. I could guess we were catching up. Turn to page 20, please. And looking at line 316, there's another call on August 14th, 2021, at about 8:55 at night from you to Brian that lasted 25 minutes. Do you see that? Yes, August 14th, 25 minutes. I called him, right? No, he called you. Oh, he called me. Yes. Okay. Do you recall what the call was about? Was that maybe for his trip, maybe if he came on the 17th, so we were probably planning his flight and all that stuff. And that was 2 days after the Moab incident, and you didn't discuss the Moab incident with him at all on the call. No. On that same page, 2 days after your call with Brian, looking at line 324, on August 16th of 2021 at 1 o'clock in the morning, you called attorney Bertolino. Oh, at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm sorry, that's a call to Brian. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Yeah, I normally wouldn't. Do you know why you were calling Brian on August 16th at 1:11 a.m. in the morning? Yeah, was that the day I called him? Oh, okay. I think it was. Well, the call didn't go through. To the best of my knowledge, it went to voicemail. Huh. Do you know on August 16th? Yes. I wonder if I dialed when I was sick. I'm not even up at 1 in the morning. I really cannot recall. Are you normally up at that time? No. Okay. And I'm not making phone calls either. Then 7 o'clock that evening, if you look at turn to the next page, line 3. So now we're on page 21, line 334. You contacted at 7:06 Attorney Bertolino's office. I'm sorry, I'm confused on the date. August 16th, I called him at 3:30. What? At 7 on August 16th at 7:06. So we're looking at what line again? I'm sorry. 334. 334. August 16th at 3 in the morning. No. No. August 16th at 7:06 p.m. Why is this so confusing? At 7:06 p.m. at August 16th, you called Attorney Bertolino's office. I called his office? Why? She is like refusing to answer this. Can I make what time is that? Can I make a point or maybe clarify something with you? The time that is showing on here says UTC. Which I just had to look up. I think that's like Googled Greenwich Mean Time. Okay, so 1 a.m. It wouldn't have been 1 a.m. where she was or where Brian was, I believe. All right. That's not testimony. I just want to make sure. Okay, so whatever UTC time it is, it is. So, yeah, okay. But do you know why you would have been calling Attorney Bertolino's office at the time? If I was calling, well, I'm sorry, not at that time. Do you know why he keeps interrupting her. Why on August 16th you were calling Attorney Bertolino's office? How long was that call? Maybe I was just talking to one of the secretaries about, I know we had sold a property that he was investing with Chris. So maybe it was, I don't know. Okay, give me a second because I want to convert UTC time to Eastern time. Okay, Mr. Gilbert, tell me what you find. Bertolino says it's 1:57 p.m. UTC time now. Right now, so 4 hours ahead. Okay, so if it's 4 hours ahead, then the phone call at 7 o'clock would have been 3 o'clock, right? Okay. So, I mean, I did call the office now and then for other reasons, and I do have a friend that works in the office, and then we do investments with him, so, but I don't remember the reason that I called him. And to what extent that we previously talked about times, specific times with regard to your phone calls, the phone calls would actually have been 4 hours earlier than what we talked about. So when I called him at 1 in the morning, you would have been calling him at 10 o'clock, right? 9? Okay, I was just calling. Okay, by the way, after Brian and Gabby went on their trip, did you change her mailing address to have everything forwarded to New York? I know we had wanted her mail forwarded, and I don't remember if she did it or I did it, but I know she wanted her mail forwarded. I don't remember. Okay. I know she had her mail forwarded. I don't remember if I helped her with it. I would have helped her with a lot of things because, like, sometimes she would have trouble with. I remember helping her look for a check in her check log. She didn't know how to do it, so I might have helped her with do the mail. Or maybe she asked me to do it. I don't recall, but I do remember she wanted her mail forwarded. All right, let's turn to page 25, please, and look at line 399. On August 26th of 2021 at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you contacted Attorney Bertolino's office again. Do you see that? Yes. Do you know why you contacted his office on that date? August 26th? What was August 26th? No. How long was that call? I don't. Prior to August 28th of 2021, did you have any reason to call Attorney Bertolino regarding your son Brian? Can you repeat it again? Prior to, she's just like not answering questions, guys. Prior to, I don't know how much clearer these questions can be made. She just doesn't want to answer them. All right, so prior to August 28th of 2021, did you have any reason to call Attorney Bertolino regarding your son Brian? Not regarding Brian. Okay. If you look immediately, the next line down, 400, same date, 8/26 of 2021, at 3:36, about a half an hour after you called him, there was a call to your office from his office. Do you see that? On 8/26? So I called his office at 17:07, and they must have called back at 17:36. Yes. Yeah. Again, do you know what the phone call was about? No. I would just have to assume it was business related. Okay, turn to page 26, please. Line 411. On August 28th it would have been 16, so that would be 4:18 in the morning, or in the afternoon, sorry. Brian placed a phone call to your phone, correct? Yes. And according to my understanding of the record, that went to voicemail. Okay. And then same day at 5:38, Brian called you again, and again, it went to voicemail. Do you see that? Yes, I do. And then the same day, at August 28th, 2011, at 2011. I don't think they meant 2011. Probably 2021. At 5:39, you and Brian had a phone call for 7 minutes and 23 seconds. Okay. Do you recall what you spoke about? Yeah, those I remember. I saw that he was trying to call me, but I was with my grandson on the beach, so I figured I'll call him tonight or something when I have a chance. And then I guess he finally got a hold of me here, and I said, I'm with so-and-so on the beach. I can't really talk. It's windy. I can't really hear. So he ended up just talking with so-and-so for a while. The nephew, I guess. Or grandson. Her grandson. His nephew. Okay, so yesterday your husband said, well, I guess that wasn't the day the stuff hit the fan. I guess it's the next day. So your recollection, the day the stuff hit the fan, your husband said that it wasn't the day that, okay, I don't know if those are his words, the day that the stuff hit the fan. So your recollection is at the point at 5:23, he was talking to your grandson. Yes. And then down on line 418, that would have been at about 7:30. There was another phone call from Brian to you, correct? Yes. And do you recall talking to him for 10 minutes and 13 seconds at that time? You know, it's funny. I don't recall. I thought he only talked to the grandson, but I guess I talked to him that day too, a little bit. I didn't remember that. Do you know that you talked to him, or do you know what you talked to him about? Probably just telling him about, I don't remember exactly, but probably just how are you doing and the race and, oh, okay. The boys talked about the race and everything. on that same page on line 423, August 29 of 2021, at about 3:20 in the afternoon, there was a phone call placed to your phone from Brian, correct? I see that one, and actually I wanted to clarify. I just remembered something from the last phone call. I remember saying I can't really talk long. I'm at the beach, but when I do get home, we'll talk tomorrow. Okay, so I did remember just now that other call. Okay, how did Brian sound to you when he called you on that day? Sorry, I'm getting notifications here. Okay. Sorry. So how did Brian sound to you when he called you on that day when you said you couldn't talk and you were at the beach? He was fine, normal. Do you recall what this phone call was on August 29th at about 3:20 in the afternoon? Yes. What was it about? I don't remember exactly which call it was. I don't know. But I remember that we had a long, long talk. I thought we talked for a long, long time. I just told him all about our summer, what we were doing, caught him up with information about the boys, told him about the race, told him about the weekend at Daytona. So I do remember that conversation. This is the day that your husband said you had a phone conversation with him when the stuff hit the fan. Yeah, I remember at the very tail end of the conversation with him where everything seemed fine. As we were saying goodbye, he all of a sudden completely changed and he sounded very upset and his voice was very upset and I didn't know why and I didn't want to push him, so we just said goodbye. But it left he was very upset, and so when I got off the phone, I told Chris, Brian sounded upset. Maybe you should give him a call. Well, according to the records that I have, your husband didn't talk to Brian until, I'll withdraw that. According to the records I have, you spoke with Brian for an extended period of time on the 29th. It looks like you talked for a total of 54 minutes. Does that sound correct? Maybe that was the call where I said you should call Brian back. Okay. We talked twice that day. Maybe we talked earlier and then talked again later. I don't remember. Well, I think this is just my interpretation of these records. I could be wrong, but if you add up the 36, 37 and the 1751, it totals to 54:28. So that's why I'm thinking the phone call was, I don't know why they split it up, but that's what okay. So it was one. You think it was one call. It was one call. Maybe we got cut out and redialed or something. Okay, I don't know. And it looks to me, too, like the line 423 and line 424, it's showing that they began at the same time. Yes, that's why I think that. Yeah, that's why I think that that's a total period of the call. So if you were on the phone for 55 minutes at that time, which would have been from like 4:30 to 5:30, your husband immediately after the call contacted Attorney Bertolino, according to the records that I have. Do you know why, after you got off the phone, or maybe even while you were on the phone with Brian, he contacted Attorney Bertolino? I thought he called Brian after he got off the phone with me and spoke with Brian, or Brian called him. According to the records that I have, and I think I reviewed them with your husband yesterday, he called Attorney Bertolino at 4:23 p.m. and he didn't call Brian until 4, about 20 minutes later. Oh, I don't know then. I'm confused. I'm not reading it right. Well, did Brian tell you in the conversation that he needed a lawyer? No. And you can't explain why either immediately after you were speaking with Brian or during the phone call that your husband called Attorney Bertolino. No, I thought he called Brian. I don't know. Do you speak with Attorney Bertolino that day? No. Oh, did I? Wait. I don't recall. After that phone call that you had with Brian on the 29th, when is the next time? Strike that. Your husband testified yesterday that Brian told him that Gabby was gone. Did Brian ever tell you that? No. Okay. How did you find out that Gabby was gone? I guess Chris must have told me after he got off the phone with him. Okay, and what did you understand gone to mean? I wasn't sure. I didn't even remember what I thought. I just know from the tone of Chris's voice it was something serious. Okay, your husband described his voice as frantic. Would you agree when you spoke with him he was frantic? I would just say upset. I don't think he was frantic. He was definitely upset. He was very upset. He didn't sound like himself. I knew something was wrong. And you didn't ask him what was wrong? Well, it was as we were saying goodbye, and I didn't want to push him, and I just thought, well, maybe he's just sad to say goodbye. It wasn't until I got off that I thought, no, he sounded more than just sad. You had a good relationship with your son? No response. Yes? Yes. You knew he was upset? Yes. Yes. But, you just said goodbye? Yeah, I just thought he was sad to say goodbye, and I don't like to. I figured if he has anything he wants to talk about, he could talk about it. I don't like to push people and say what's wrong. We were saying goodbye, and it was just at the tail end of the conversation. Okay, so you knew that he was upset, yes? Yes. Your husband told you that Gabby was gone, correct? Yes. Phone calls were made to Attorney Bertolino, correct? Right. Why would you make a call to Attorney Bertolino if you didn't know what gone meant? That's a good question. Well, Chris had told me Brian wanted him to call a lawyer, and you didn't say why? I think that's when Chris was telling me that Brian said, Gabby's gone and please call a lawyer. Okay, so if Gabby's gone, please call a lawyer. Doesn't that say to you that she's gone? Like, unalived? Sorry, throat gets dry reading all this. I didn't know what to think. I don't remember if that crossed my mind or if I just was so nervous. I just thought he was in some kind of trouble. I didn't know. What about possible explanation what other possible explanation could there be for she's gone, please call a lawyer? A lot of things ran through my mind. Possibly they got in a fight and, maybe she's going to press charges against him or something. I didn't know. Well, did you ask? Well, I didn't call Brian after that. I don't know if we talked after that. Your son's upset. Your husband says he says Gabby's gone. Your husband says he call a lawyer. You call a lawyer and you never call your son back immediately and say, what's going on? What's happening? I think I spoke to him finally later in the day. I thought I called him back that night, but it was 2 years ago and I don't remember exactly, but I thought I did call him back later that night, but by the point I think our attorney had said, just don't talk to him about anything. He'll talk to Brian. Can you tell me any possible option based on the circumstances as you knew them on August 29th? Your son's upset, his conversation with your husband, Gabby's gone, call a lawyer, any other possible explanation other than she had been unalived. Objection. Asked and answered. That's what I was going to say, says the witness. But you can answer it. A lot of things crossed my mind, and one of them that was that maybe they got in a fight and maybe she's going to press charges against him for maybe he hit her or something, which was one that ran through my mind. A lot of things went through my mind of what to do, you need a lawyer for, but the fact that maybe he unalived her went through your mind, didn't it? I don't know if I even wanted to. I think I was so panicky. It might have gone through my mind. I can't recall what I was thinking at that time? Well, from the time that you had that conversation on August 29th until September 1st, did it go through your mind that your son may have unalived Gabby? I just realized that you guys are not getting the full screen here. Let me move that over just slightly. Sorry. All right. I didn't know what to think. Blah, blah, blah. Well, at the time that you had that conversation on the 29th until September 1st, did it go through your mind that your son may have unalived Gabby? I can't recall something as significant as your son committing an unaliving, which you now know he did. You can't recall if you remember thinking that back in August and September of 2021. Objection. She's answered that already. Question by Mr. Riley, but you can answer it. I don't remember all the thoughts that I thought. I was panicking and thinking a lot of thoughts, and it's hard to think back to the time with new information what you thought at the time, but it probably went through my mind. Can you tell me back in August, on August 29th of 2021, that the thought of Brian unaliving Gabby didn't go through your mind? I can't remember specifically what went through my mind. When Brian came home, well, strike that. How did it end up that Brian came home? I think that night, but I can't recall with the records, but I thought that night he called back and said, "I'm driving home." Who did he speak with? Me. On August 29th, I thought so, but now, well, my memory, I guess, could be wrong. But I thought that night, unless it was the next night, but I thought that night he said he was driving home. According to the phone records that I've reviewed, after 4:37 in the afternoon on August 29th, you had no further telephone communications with your son that day. Oh, okay. You tried to call him at 7:12 p.m. and left a voicemail message, or maybe left a voicemail, He's saying she may have left it. He doesn't know. You tried to call and didn't connect with him. Okay. If you'll turn to page 27, line 432, on August 30th of 2021, he tried to call you on 8:07. So I'm guessing that would be probably been the 29th. He tried to call you, but that went to voicemail. Okay. On the same date at 8:13:15, which I think would be August 29th, he tried to call you again, but the call didn't go through. It was unanswered. Okay. What line is that? That's 435. I'm sorry if I didn't say that what line it was. And perhaps you did speak with him. Hold on just a second. On line 439 on August 30th, August 29th, at what would have been 10:38 at night, there's a 22-minute phone call with him. Is that when you recall having a phone call with him? Yeah, I remember it was before I was going to bed, and I think Chris was already asleep, and I remember he said he was driving home. Your husband was already asleep at that point after getting a phone call from your son that Gabby was gone. He was frantic, call a lawyer. But her husband was sleeping? What? Was that all the same day? Yes. Well, it was a long weekend. We've been away. We'd been at the beach with the kids and the race, and he falls asleep early. What did you speak with Brian about on August 29th at about 10 o'clock in the evening? That was when he said he was driving home, and in the conversation with him, did you ask him any details about Gabby being gone? No. Why not? I don't know. I guess I was nervous, upset, tired. I think at that point, Stephen had already said, don't talk about anything. I can't remember. Well, this is a girl you told me you loved. Someone you loved, someone who was going to become a part of your family, and you asked no questions about her, of your son, when you learned that she was gone, correct? Correct. Weren't you concerned about her? I was, but I think it was my son. I was concerned for my son. What were you concerned about, or what were you concerned about your son? He was driving home and he was upset. I knew that he wanted Chris to call a lawyer, and so I know so I think I was just telling him, if you're coming home, I don't remember what we talked about. I just remember he said he was coming home, and I didn't ask him anything. She's like not even answering the questions and going around in circles. I'm getting so tired of her answers. If Gabby had just walked off on her own, would you have told your son to drive home in her van with all of her stuff in it? No, I didn't tell him to drive home. He just said he was on his way home, and I thought it was really, it really is Brian's van. Maybe her parents would pick her up and come get her. I don't know. I thought she knew. I just caught her in a lie. She says, and I thought it really is Brian's van. She just said previously that early on she knew it was in Gabby's name, the title. So that's a lie right there. Anyways. Well, you told me that you saw the title was in Gabby's name. See, he's calling her out on it too. So why would you think it was Brian's van? Because I believe he paid for it. He worked on it. I believed it was his, and I think it was just a nice gesture that he put it in her name. What? I knew that she couldn't afford to pay for her or didn't want to pay for her. She was leasing a car and she didn't want, and Brian was paying for the lease, and she finally drove home and left the car at her parents' house. And so I think he just wanted to put the van in her name to be nice, but I don't remember her ever driving it, even. That doesn't mean it's not hers. So when you learned that your son was on the way back, you didn't say to him, wait a minute, what about Gabby? You have all her belongings in your van. You can't just leave her there? Well, object to the form. You can answer. Oh, I just figured, it was his van. And I know when my daughter broke up with her boyfriend, they divided the belongings later. Sometimes, did your daughter end her boyfriend? I never asked. You never asked. They broke up, and I never asked why my daughter, I never asked my daughter why they broke up. I mean, when people break up, I don't ask the details. Did you have any concerns that the young lady that you loved, who you described as sweet, loving, friendly, someone who was going to be your daughter-in-law, part of your family, she lived with you, did you have any concerns that her body might have been laying out somewhere unprotected? No, I didn't think that, but I was concerned for her well-being because I cared about her, but my son's driving home and I'm nervous for him. And so you're concerned about her well-being. So what did you do about her well-being? Well, just, Gabrielle, I thought she always could take care of herself, and I just was concerned about my son at the time, and I just figured maybe her parents could come get her, or she would. Last time he left her in a hotel. That was when they fought. That was when they went to that was the Moab incident when the cops split them up for a night, and they took her away from her van, which it's her van, and they put Chris in the van and her in a hotel, or told her to go in a hotel. All right, so just, Gabrielle, I thought she always could take care of herself, stayed in a hotel, maybe, How would her parents come and get her? Like they could drive out or fly out, and where would they go? Well, I don't know, wherever she was, out west on their vacation, their trip. Where in particular? Actually, I didn't really keep track of where they were on their vacation. You had Gabby's phone number, didn't you? Yes. You're concerned about her well-being. Did you try to call her? No. Did you text her? No. Did you take any effort to try to communicate with her and see if she was okay? Well, no, because I was just concerned about my son, and I don't know. So you were concerned about your son, yeah, because you knew he had ended Gabby, right? No. Objection. You can answer. No, just because I was concerned that he was upset, and I knew he needed a lawyer, and I hope not. It was a terrible thing, and I hope not. So Brian gets home September 1st in Gabby's van, correct? Yes. And all of Gabby's stuff is in the van, correct? I don't know what was in the van. So you never looked inside the van? No. Did you see Brian's belongings? Or did you see Brian bringing things into the house? Not, I think so. I think I recall him bringing stuff in. Was some of it Gabby stuff? I didn't look at what he was bringing in. You know that eventually her stuff was found inside your house, correct? Yes, inside, including her laptop. Oh, I don't remember what they found. They gave me a list of the things they took, but I don't remember if her laptop was there. Okay, so when Brian gets home, you expressed your concern about Gabby. Did you ask him about Gabby? No. I think by that time, my attorney advised me just not to talk about anything, so I just gave him something to eat and we didn't talk about anything. As a mother, as someone who had loved Gabby, despite what your lawyer said, why didn't you ask questions of your son? Objection to the form, you can answer. Okay, but that's what Stephen told us to do, and that's just what I did. Okay, so you could write her off that easily. Objection. I wasn't writing her off. Why didn't you contact Joe Petito and Nicole Schmidt? Objection. It's been asked and answered. I never asked her that question. Well, just my attorney told me not to talk to anybody, so I just didn't talk to anybody. Had you met Nicole Schmidt before? Yes. On how many occasions? Once or twice. Had you ever met Joe Petito? Never. Did Nicole Schmidt, after September 1st, ever try to contact you by phone? After September 1st? Yes. Did you answer the call? No. Okay. Because of your attorney's advice? Yes. Did she send you a text? Yes. And did you answer the text? No. Because of your attorney's advice? Yes. Did you block her on your phone? No. Okay, did she reach out to you through Facebook Messenger? I don't know. Not that I know of. I wasn't really on Facebook. Did you and Brian ever communicate through Facebook Messenger? I don't believe so. No, I don't even know if he had a Facebook unless it was like in high school. Since August 29th of 2021, have you ever tried to reach out to Joseph Petito or Nicole Schmidt? No. When Brian came home, what did you do? What did the three of you do? You, Brian, and your husband. We mostly stayed home, prepared meals, went out to dinner, I think once or twice, and watched TV. Not much. You went on vacation, didn't you? Oh, yes. And we went overnight to Fort DeSoto because we had reservations. We had just bought a camper and we wanted to test it out. So your life went on as normal. Well, we did normal things, yes. How could you go on vacation knowing that Gabby was gone while the Petito family was looking for her? Object to the form. We just had planned to go and test out the camper overnight, and we were just going on doing our regular things. I didn't. I don't know. Well, you had a reservation for Fort DeSoto for a different time, hadn't you? I believe it was the same weekend, but maybe a longer time frame. Let's take a break. Recess taken from 10:20, so they took a 10-minute break. Let me take a water break while we're at it. It's good to hydrate. On the side of the screen, underneath me, you'll see a picture of Brian and Gabby, and underneath that is a picture of Roberta Laundrie, and the back of Chris. There were very few pictures or photos of Roberta, and in all pictures she has like a hat, sunglasses. She's trying to cover her face with like face masks and stuff, so it was hard to find a picture of her. But anyways, all right, so here we go. Back from our recess. Mr. Riley continues the questioning. Mrs. Laundrie, at some point, Brian left your house, and I think your husband testified yesterday. That was September 13th. Does that sound correct? Yes. By the way, does Mr. Bertolino still represent you and your husband? I believe so, yes. For what? Without going into details, anything related to this case? I always think of him as my attorney for everything, but so, yeah, for this case? Okay. I guess so. Yeah, that's why he's here, right? So when Brian left, what was his demeanor? When he left that morning to go hiking, he was just going hiking. You knew he was leaving to go hiking? Yes. Attorney Bertolino had stated on several occasions that Brian was grieving when he left. Was he grieving? I didn't see him grieving. I wouldn't use the word grieving. I don't know. He was, I guess, worried and concerned. So he wasn't grieving. He was just worried and concerned for himself. Yeah, that sounds about right. All right. And I know he was talking to Stephen on the phone, but we tried to keep things. Stephen Bertolino told us just to keep him close, and that's what we did. Did you ever see him as grieving after he returned on September 1st? I don't know what he was thinking or feeling. He was your son, right? Nods affirmatively. Yes, yes. And you never discussed what happened out in Wyoming with him? No. Did Attorney Bertolino tell you why you shouldn't discuss it with him? No, he just told us keep him safe, keep him close, and don't talk to him about anything. He was representing Brian. Brian was Stephen's client, and it was, we just stayed in the background, kept him safe, kept him close. Did Mr. Bertolino speak to you, did Mr. Bertolino tell you not to speak with Brian about what happened out in Wyoming so that you wouldn't know whether he did or didn't end Gabby's life? Objection to the form, but you can answer. I don't know why Stephen gave us the advice he gave us. It's just what he gave us. Well, as a mother, you have a natural instinct to want to speak with your child if he's hurting, don't you? Yes. Did you have the natural instinct with Brian when he came home after September 1st? Well, not to talk to him and pump him for questions, but certainly to love him and feed him and hug him and, give him lots of love and keep him safe and close. So you didn't, as our attorney advised us. Sorry, are you finished? Yes. So you didn't want to know what it was that was making him so upset. Well, I just followed Stephen's advice and I, left. I tried not to. I left him be. Does anybody believe this? I don't. I don't believe that she just let him be. So you put your motherly instinct aside and followed an attorney's advice. Well, I think it was my motherly instinct to follow the attorney's advice to do what was best for my son and that's what I was doing. Were you concerned your son was going to go to prison? At that time, I don't remember if that thought crossed my mind. Well, that would be a pretty traumatic thing, wouldn't it? My son going to prison? Yeah, yes. And you can't remember if back in September of 2021, the thought of your son going to prison ever crossed your mind. I don't remember. I had a lot of worries, and I don't remember every thought or worry specifically. What were your worries? That Brian would be okay. Okay about what? Whatever the issue was that he had to deal with Stephen and it would end well. That was my hope. And what did you think maybe that issue was? I wasn't sure and I didn't want to ask, and maybe I was told not to ask, and so I just kept Brian close. I kept him home and safe and didn't talk to him about anything and hoped for the best. So on August 29th, you learned from Brian that Gabby was gone, correct? Yes. And did you think maybe she just walked off somewhere? That was another thought that I had, yeah. Had she ever done that before? She often wouldn't come home at night or would disappear. Like I was having a family dinner party and she didn't show up for it. And it turned out she was living in New York. But hadn't mentioned it. And so, no, I didn't really keep track of her. She was independent. So what period of time would she disappear for? Sometimes she'd go out at night and we didn't know where she was until 4 a.m, but she's not my daughter. I'm not going to tell her that she can't go out at night. And sometimes she would. For instance, we were going to have a holiday and she knew I shopped and cooked and the recipe she liked. I planned a recipe and then she just wasn't there. And I thought, oh, she's not going to be here for Easter. It sounds to me like she doesn't like Gabby saying that. Like she's got some underlying grudges maybe against Gabby, taking her little boy away. I don't know. My opinion only. So, anyways, so I shopped and cooked in the recipes she liked, and I planned a recipe, and then she just wasn't there. And I thought, oh, she's not going to be here for Easter. And it turned out she'd gone back to New York. So, she wasn't mine to, if it was my daughter, I would have said, why didn't you tell me you weren't going to be here for Easter, or you should be here for Easter? But she wasn't my daughter. She's allowed to come and go as she pleases. So why it's not okay for Gabby to go back home and see her family at Easter? This is just the girlfriend of my son. She's allowed to come and go as she pleases. It's different than it's different when you live with your own daughter. This is just the girlfriend of my son. It's not my place to, she's allowed to come and go as she pleases. What was the longest period of time that she disappeared for? Well, I guess when she went back for Easter, I don't know if even she was coming back. I don't know how many days that was. Okay, did it turn out into weeks? No, probably not. Okay, so there came a point when Gabby was gone for a longer period than she's ever been gone before, right? Well, maybe they broke up. I don't know. But that probably was the longest period, yes. And had there ever been a time when Gabby left for a period of time and Brian was upset and frantic and asked for a lawyer? No. Yesterday, your husband said that at some point, a $25,000 retainer was given to attorney Bertolino. Do you remember him saying that? Yes. Do you remember when that was, that check was given? What? Do you know when that check was given? Okay, early September, but I don't have the exact date. Brian arrives home on September 1st. How soon after that is the check issued to attorney Bertolino? Probably the very day. Okay, so when attorney Bertolino said in the press that he wasn't retained until September 11th, that is not correct. Correct? Object to the form. Well, I don't believe I don't believe that check was to retain Mr. Bertolino. Why were you giving Mr. Bertolino a $25,000 check then? He was going to retain lawyers out west in case Brian needed help out west. What would Brian have needed help out west with? I don't know. That was between Brian and his attorney, and I didn't get involved. Okay, so you wrote a check for $25,000, or your husband wrote the check to attorney Bertolino and didn't ask what it was for. Well, we did it. We did it to retain attorneys out west for Brian on Brian's behalf. Was any part of that $25,000 for attorney Bertolino? I really don't know what he does with his funds, but it was my understanding that it was for the attorneys out west, but you'd have to ask Mr. Bertolino. Well, you're the one who retained him, you and your husband. Right. Can you tell me what you retained attorney Bertolino for? Later, we retained attorney Bertolino to defend us against the plaintiffs Petito and Schmidt versus me and my husband. Yesterday, your husband testified that when he sent that $25,000 check, it was to represent you and he and your son. Do you recall him saying that? I do. Okay, is he correct? Yeah, I don't know if he's incorrect, but it was my understanding. We might just have different understandings, but it was my understanding that it was to retain the attorneys out west. Okay, so do you have any reason to believe that you were in need of an attorney when that retainer was sent to attorney Bertolino? No. Okay, to your knowledge, were you ever the subject of a criminal investigation? Was I ever? I believe so, yes. When? Well, sometime after, while Brian was missing, my attorney informed me that the FBI wanted to question me. So if that's considered an investigation, then yes. Question you about what? I guess if I knew where Brian was, or I don't know what they wanted to question me about. I think they said something about they had something electronic that I had done, or they had, and I'm assuming it was I think Mr. Bertolino told me that they wanted to question me if I knew where Brian was. Okay, that's my understanding. Mr. Riley, okay, off the record, they take another a 2-minute recess. Let's take a water break while we've got a 2-minute recess. Everyone hydrate. All right. Mr. Riley continues questioning, did anyone ever tell you that you were being investigated for you having committed a crime? No, I think they just wanted to question me. Now I'm not sure if of the distinction. I don't know if they were investigating me for a crime or if they just wanted to question me on the whereabouts of Brian. I think it was they wanted to maybe charge me with something, or they thought they could. I don't know. I'm unclear on that. Well, did you ever have a conversation with Attorney Bertolino about you being investigated for committing a crime? Yes. When? When Brian was missing and he said the FBI wanted to talk to me about something electronic they thought I had done. So I guess that was a crime, yes. Do you know what it was electronic that they think you did? The only thing I could think of was possibly when I accompanied Brian to the cell phone store. Maybe they thought that was wrong, but I don't see how keeping company at the cell phone store was wrong. And that's all I could think of. So Brian left on the 13th, correct? Yes. And when did you report him missing? That night, the 13th. Yes. Okay, and when was it that the Attorney Bertolino told you that the FBI wanted to speak with you? I don't recall. Was it the next day, the same day, days later? I have no recollection. Sometime in that before we found Brian. Were any charges ever filed against you or your husband? No. I'm sorry, I don't know why I only have 2 copies. We got it yesterday. They must be talking about the exhibit. Okay, here's the exhibit. I'm going to show you what's marked as Exhibit 3 for your deposition here today. Can I clarify a question from a while ago that I was just thinking about? Sure. When you asked about our camping trip, I just wanted to make clear that we checked with Mr. Bertolino before we went camping. So I didn't want you to think we just were going about, I checked to make sure that it was okay. And he said, just do what you would normally do. And we were normally going camping. So that's why we went. Why did you check with him to see if that would be okay? Because we weren't sure if he said keep him close and keep him, and we wanted to make sure that we would be okay. Okay. Taking a look at what's been marked as Exhibit 3, do you recognize that? Yes. That's Mr. Bertolino's statement of September 14th of 2021. Yes. And he was speaking on your behalf, was he not? Yes. Okay. And did you review that statement before he released it? I don't recall, but I'm sure I did. We approved all the statements that Stephen made, so we must have. Okay, so you approved his statement before it was released? I don't specifically remember, but I'm sure I did. What was the purpose of releasing this statement? Oh, there was so much. There were people outside our doors, banging on our windows, sending us death threats. I think the purpose was sort of just to calm the public down so that we'd know that we did extend our best wishes to the Petitos, because the people were screaming that we were horrible things at us, that we felt that this would calm them down so that they would know, no, we do care, and we were hoping it would calm the public. It was a very scary time. We couldn't leave the house. It was frightening. Did it calm the public down? No. So what about this statement led you to believe that it might calm the public down? That we did care, and they were demanding a statement from us, and we just felt we should give them a statement if they're demanding a statement from us, or it could get even worse. Why at this time? I don't remember why at this time. It was the 14th, so Brian had disappeared. And that's when the media started to pressure us and get very ugly, and not just the media, but all kinds of crazy people. The statement says it's an extremely difficult time for both the Petito family and the Laundrie family. Yes. How is it difficult for the Laundrie family? We didn't know where Brian was, and he was missing, and I think by then we had people screaming outside the door. It was just a difficult time. Was it unusual for Brian to go off on his own for a period of time? Oh, he always hiked, right? I mean, hiking, yes. And it wasn't unusual for him to go away for days at a time, right? Well, yeah, he would go on those long trips with Gabrielle, and So why did you become concerned on the evening of the 13th when he didn't come home? Because he said he was coming home. He said, see you later. And so when he didn't come home for dinner, we were concerned. If Brian was missing, why wasn't that included in the statement asking for help locating Brian? I don't know. I'm sure he left that morning. I guess we just hoped he'd come back later that day or the next day. I mean, every day we hoped he'd come back. But you said you reported it to the police on the 13th, right? Well, the day he left, which I think was the 13th, right? And this was, not the police. No, we reported it to the FBI, and they had a liaison, and I just assumed the Northport Police Department and the FBI police department had a liaison, so I assumed that we were reporting it to the FBI. They're going to report it, they're going to share their information. Are you certain you reported it to the FBI on the night of the 13th? Yes. Okay, not me personally, Brian's attorney. Mr. Bertolino? Yes. So you were concerned enough about him being missing on the 13th that you called Attorney Bertolino and he called the FBI. Yes, but it's not included in this statement. Asking for help locating Brian is not included in this statement. No, because I don't think we needed help looking for him. We just wanted to let the FBI know he hadn't come home, and I was worried about him, but I don't think I was worried enough to alert the media, and I was just worried about him. You weren't worried enough about your son that didn't come home? Okay, that seems really suspicious to me, but all right. The next paragraph says, it's our understanding that a search has been organized for Miss Petito in or near Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming. How did you learn that? Oh, I guess on the news, or was it? It must have been on the news. And when it says "our" and you approved this statement, did you understand that was "our" meaning your husband and Mr. Bertolino and you? I probably didn't read it so closely to recognize the word "are," but I'm assuming it was on. Yes, I'm sure all of us were concerned. We were all concerned about Gabrielle. Me, Stephen, and Chris. Okay, was Brian in Grand Teton National Park before he came home? I don't really know the area and I don't know where they were, so I don't know. I don't even know Grand Teton National Park. I don't know where they were camping, or I didn't. It then goes on to state, on behalf of the Laundrie family, it is our hope that the search for Miss Petito is successful. Yes. And that Miss Petito is reunited with her family. Yes. Did I read that correctly? Yes. This was issued 16 or 17 days after you learned that Gabby was quote unquote gone, correct? Yes. What hope did you have at the time that the search for Miss Petito was going to be successful? We hoped for the best. We hoped they would find her and she would be fine, and that was our hope. We hoped for the best, and we sincerely hoped for the best. And she said that like 3 times, and wanted to extend that to the Petit Schmidt family. What led you to believe that she might be reunited with her family? Well, nothing led me to believe. I just hoped it. They were looking for her, so... Well, you pretty much knew she was unalive at that time, didn't you? Objection to the form. No, I hoped for the best. We planned for the worst in case. We got Brian a lawyer, but we certainly hoped for the best. Okay, well, let's put September 14th, 2021 in perspective. 16 or 17 days prior to that time, you spoke with your son, and he was upset, correct? Yes. You learned from your husband that he told your husband Gabby was gone, correct? Correct. And that whatever occurred, your son needed a lawyer, correct? Yes. And this is now 17 days later. Brian didn't hear from Gabby, did he? Not that I know of. You didn't hear from Gabby, did you? No. There was all kinds of news reports about the family begging for help looking for Gabby, wasn't there? Finding Gabby. Yes. Okay, with all of that in perspective, what led you to believe she might still be alive? I just had hope. I've heard of stories where, people are looking for their daughter and they find her much later. And so I just wanted to give that hope. I just never wanted to give up hope. Did you wonder why before you gave $25,000 to Attorney Bertolino, why your son needed a lawyer? Yes. Yes. Okay. What was your thought about that? He must have done something, or something must have happened that he could have been in trouble for, and whatever it was, he wanted to get a lawyer for him. We wanted to get a lawyer for him. So, your husband testified yesterday that when Brian called on August 29th, he was in Jackson, Wyoming. Right. Were you aware of that? I think he told me when he got there. Well, Brian didn't tell me that, but I don't know when I first heard the word Jackson, maybe when Chris said it to me when I got off the phone, or with Steven, but I don't know where Jackson is. Did you ever consider that this statement might be upsetting to Joe Petito and Nicole Schmidt? Not at all, no. Did you ever consider it was giving them false hope that their daughter would still be alive? I had hope she was alive, and I wasn't giving false hope. I didn't know until I heard it on the news that she was gone. I had hope also. Well, you had hope, but you also knew Brian told you she was gone. He needed a lawyer, and no one had heard from her for a long time, right? Yeah, okay, and you realized there was a likelihood that she was deceased, correct? I don't know if I thought that there was a likelihood. I just hoped that she would be all right. I never imagined we would end like this. And I do believe her on that end, but at the same time, I find a lot of this suspicious. Anyways, you knew when this statement was issued, she wasn't going to be reunited alive with her family. Isn't that correct? Objection to the form. No, I didn't know. I didn't know Gabrielle was gone until I heard it on the news. On September 16th, the Northport police announced that they knew exactly where Brian was. Yes. Do you recall that? Yes. Did you call and ask them where he was? No, I didn't call and ask them where he was. I was very relieved that they knew where he was, and I was very happy when I heard that they knew where he was. Well, you were desperate to know where he was, weren't you? Yes. I wanted to know where my son was, and yeah. If someone knew where he was, wouldn't you want to know that? Yes, but as long as the police knew where he was, I was relieved. I said, okay, good. I guess eventually the police will bring him back home, or I'll get to visit him. I didn't need to know exactly where he was. The police knew where he was, and I was like, good, they've got him. You'd get to visit him where? Wherever the police had him. I mean, they said that we know where Brian is, so I said, great. I'll get to see him wherever he is. Did you suspect at the time he might be in jail? Actually, I didn't really think about that. They had just said that they knew where he was, and I just assumed they knew where he was. She repeats herself so often. That they knew where he was, and that would be at the headquarters. I mean, I don't know. Where else would he be if it wasn't in my house? Jail. And the police knew where he was. Did you think maybe jail? I don't know, maybe. The police had him, so I don't know where they put people when they have them, and I was happy that they knew where he was. All right, so let me show you what's been marked as Exhibit 4. It meant he was okay, and that's all that. Have you seen Exhibit 4 before? Yes. Okay, Exhibit 4 is a letter. Down at the bottom, it says September 15th of 2021. It's a letter addressed to you on the stationery of attorney Richard B. Stafford, which with typed signatures of Jim Schmidt, Nicole Schmidt, Joe Petito, and Tara Petito. Correct? Yes. Did you ever see this before? Yes. When did you see it? I believe I saw it in the media. Okay, around September 16th. I don't recall the date, but around that time that it came out in the media. And what did you do? I read it. I guess I don't remember, maybe called our lawyer, I don't know. Did you ever respond to it? No. Why not? Our attorney advised us not to speak to anybody. Did this letter have any impact upon you whatsoever? Yes. What impact did it have upon you? I felt very bad, and I was worried too, and I felt bad for them, but I was following my attorney's advice. So yes, it did have an effect on me, but in hindsight, do you think your attorney's advice to stay silent was very good? Object to the form. You can answer. Oh, I don't know. In hindsight, was it good? I don't know. I can't foresee What might have happened if we'd taken a different path? Did you ever consider we might not be here today had you spoken to the Petito family? Object to the form. I don't know. I never really thought about that. Let me show you what's marked as Exhibit 5. Exhibit 5 is a text message that Attorney Bertolino sent to Josie Carbonate at PF 25. I believe that's a station on the East Coast, and the text message says, "The news about Gabby Petito is heartbreaking. The Laundrie family prays for Gabby and her family." Did I read that correctly? Yes. And that was sent on September 19th of 2021. Did you know the text message was going to go out? I don't remember if I knew. I know Stephen usually discussed any statements he made, so I don't remember if I knew about it after or before, but I do recognize it. Do you know why it was sent out? Well, that must have been when they found Gabrielle. If this was the 19th, it must have been that Gabrielle's unaliving must have been on the news that day. Yes, September 19th. I remember that was the day it was the news that Gabrielle had passed. How was the news heartbreaking to the Laundrie family? Oh, it was heartbreaking in so many ways. Just to know Gabrielle was gone, and it was just so heartbreaking. So it wasn't heartbreaking before that. Well, I didn't know she was gone until it was on the news, and then that's when it was heartbreaking. All right, so, the words that your husband told you on August 29th is that she was gone. Right. That was concerning, but heartbreaking. Our hearts were broken when we found out Gabrielle was gone, deceased. So when you found out that she was gone, did you reach out to Joe Petito and Nicole Schmidt? No. Why not? We just kept following our attorney's advice to not speak to anybody. I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 8. That's an email from you to Brian, is it not? Yes. And the date of that email is August 29th of 2021, correct? Yes. And that's the date that you learned that Gabby was gone. Oh, let me just read it. I don't remember seeing this. This is the date I learned Gabby was gone. Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember this. This is August 29th. I thought I was at the race on that day. Maybe I had come home. August 29th was a Sunday, and that was the day. So I was home by Sunday. Yeah. Okay. Why would you on the date that you learned that your son needed a lawyer and he was frantic and Gabby was gone, why would you send an email about t-shirts? I don't know. This is at 1:17, and I guess I talked to Brian later, and at 1:17 I was just Googling t-shirts. I must have spoken to Brian later. I don't remember what time the call was. Why would you mention using Gabby's Tide stick to get something out of it, a stain out of a shirt? Because she was so funny with her Tide sticks. It was a joke because she just loved, if you had a stain, she'd whip out her Tide stick, and she gave everybody a Tide stick. And so that was my little joke, and it was funny. My husband stained his t-shirt, and that was my little joke. We should try to one of Gabby's Tide sticks. She loved her Tide sticks. I think she bought them in cases and gave them out to people. You told me that you rarely sent emails to your son, so why this email on this date about a stain on a t-shirt? I know it's such a coincidence. I don't know. I guess I was looking for t-shirts for my husband. I remember looking for t-shirts for my husband, and as a matter of fact, I don't remember this email. But recently, when the FBI released to you all of our emails, this one came up, and I thought, oh, I forgot all about this one, and I didn't see the email. All I had was the pictures that I sent, and I remembered looking up the pictures of the t-shirts, debating on maybe why should I spend money on a t-shirt when it would be more special if Brian drew it, because I had forgotten for the previous birthday or Father's Day, I got my husband a t-shirt with his favorite car, and he stained it with ice cream. Okay, like, she's just rambling now. Like, what? Were you telling Brian how to get a blood stain out of a t-shirt? No. So it's a coincidence it was sent the same day that he told you that Gabby was gone. Yes. Object to the form. Oh, you can answer yes. All right, so next, let me show you what I've marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 6. Do you recognize this? Yes. This is what's been referred to in the press as the burn after reading letter. Yes. When was this? You would agree that this letter is undated, correct? Correct. And the first page of it has a bird drawn on it, correct? Yes. Well, not drawn. Was this a card or some stationery that you had? Stationery, yeah, I made, but it wasn't drawn. Okay, what do you mean you made it? Well, I went to Hobby Lobby and I bought blank cards and then rubber stamped them. So you had a stamp of a bird, yes. Is there some significance about this bird? Nope. I have a frog, bird, chicken. Okay. And the handwriting that's on that first page, remember, is your handwriting. Yes. And why did you write remember on the front? It was remember ... that I'll love you, I'll always love you. And so if you open it up, it's all about how I'll always love him. So if it was like remember, I'll always love you. All right. Okay, so if there's a reason why is there a reason why it's not dated? I just didn't think to date it. I don't always date notes. When did you write it? Before he was leaving for him and Gab's trip. She went from calling her Gabrielle to now Gab's trip in May of 21. Why did you write it then? Because I thought he might be going away a little longer. But she told us that she thought that they were only going to New York, and now she's saying that it would be longer. So she wrote him a note. So she's inconsistent here. Anyways, I knew he was going away, and I was going to miss him, and I just wanted to make sure that he knew I loved him, even though he was going away. And I was disappointed, But it didn't matter. It was okay, because we'd gotten in the little thing. I thought you were going to live here and save your money, so I didn't want him to think I was disappointed in him or didn't love him, or so whatever he decided to do, I would always, always, always love him. So this was written after he told you that they were going on their trip. Yeah, like right before he left. Like just a few days. But your understanding of the trip, I think, according to the prior testimony, is that they were just going up to New York. Yeah, they told me they were going up to New York, but I guess from seeing them empty the storage unit, and I was kind of beginning to suspect that they were going to be longer. Did you and he have a disagreement over him leaving? No, not a disagreement, but I did express that I was disappointed. I thought I had waited for us to move in together. After I went back to New York, I couldn't wait until we could all live together, which I know is silly. She wants to live with her boyfriend and his fiance forever. It's a little weird. He's a grown-up boy. But I know that he would live with us for a while and save his money and work and put it away. I know he wanted to buy a house, so I expressed I was disappointed, but he's a grown boy and he can do what he wants. And so I just thought maybe we were growing apart, and we were growing apart because he's growing up. He's not a little boy anymore. Did you write this letter because you were concerned that he didn't know you loved him? Well, I thought he might be concerned since I was disappointed that he might think, yeah, I don't love him, but no. I mean, I really didn't think I just wanted to reassure him that I loved him no matter what, no matter if he moved away, if he decided to stay out west, whatever he did. If he didn't buy a house and decided to do something else, I don't know, whatever he did, I would always love him. Why did you write burn after reading on it? Well, Gabby had bought Brian a book, and it was called Burn After Reading, and it was how you could put your deepest thoughts down, and if they were embarrassing, you didn't want anybody else to read them. The advice on the book was just burn it. So it was like a little joke that I knew he would get. He would know what I was referencing to, and I did want him to get rid of it, not burn it, but throw it out so nobody read it. It's an embarrassing note. But it says burn after reading, not burn after writing. Because it's kind of the same thing because he would be reading it. I wrote it, but I knew he would be reading it. So after you read it, burn it. Okay. Sounds logical. Well, that's what someone writes on a letter. Don't want it to be discovered, right? Right. Okay. So you didn't want this letter discovered, right? Yeah, it was embarrassing and I didn't want, yeah, it's a silly letter. He's a grown boy and it was a joke, really. He didn't have to destroy it. And I think it's sweet that he saved it. It was just a little joke. It says, turning to the next page, you are my boy. Nothing could make me stop loving you. Nothing will or could ever divide us, right? So why did you feel the need to say that? I guess I was just being over the top, mushy, emotional, just so he knew we were always, even if we grew apart, he would always be my little boy. If he's 40, 50 years old, he'll always be my boy and nothing could ever divide us. Okay. So, even if he didn't speak to me for 6 months because he's mad or something, I would forgive him and we'd talk. It's like nothing happened. Okay, nothing including unaliving his fiance would make you stop loving him, correct? Oh, I would always love him. Then it says, no matter what we do or where we go or what we say, we will always love each other. Right. No matter what, including unaliving. Well, I didn't say including unaliving, but I would always love my boy no matter what. And then you say, if you are in jail, I will bake you a cake with a file in it. Yes. What led you to believe that he might be in jail? Well, I went out with a series of silly examples of things that were far-fetched. Like, that would never actually happen. He would end up in jail. He was such a nice, good boy. I would never imagine it. I would never imagine, if you read on, that he would ever go to the moon. I didn't think he was going to suddenly go to astronaut school and go to the moon. So I was just being exaggerating and silly, and I tend to be, I know I don't seem jokey, but I always joke. Even my Tide Sticks was a joke. I'm always doing jokes. Even if they're not good jokes, I'm always joking. And so I was just making it light. Like, if you just go to jail, if you go to the moon, if you do that, no matter what, I'll love you, love you, love you. And it was just a silly letter. I never imagined the future when I wrote this. You understood he could have gone to jail for unaliving, right? Object to the form. All right, so not when I wrote the letter and not ever. I wasn't actually going to put a file in a cake. Who does that? What would even lead you to think that he might go to jail? Objection. Well, nothing. I was just being, what would lead me to think he would go to the moon? Nothing would lead me to think he would go to the moon. And then next you say, if you need to dispose of a body, I will show up with a shovel and garbage bags. What led you to believe that he might need to dispose of a body? Object to the form. I know, okay, but this is so crazy. Somebody had told me a joke and I thought it was funny, and I told people at work. I told Brian, I thought it was the funniest joke. Someone said to me, oh, a good friend is somebody that shows up with garbage bags and a shovel. Oh, somebody you can call at 3 in the morning and they show up with garbage bags and a shovel and they don't ask any questions. Haha, that's so funny. That's how you're a good friend. And I thought that was funny, a funny joke. The person that told me said it was funny, and I told it to Brian. I thought it was funny, such a funny joke. So I was referring to the joke, but I didn't have time to write out the whole joke. I knew he would know the joke I was referring to. So that I was always, be there. So your intent in writing this letter was to express the depth of your love to him, right? But you don't say, whatever you do in life, I'll be proud of you, correct? I know that that would have been better. You don't talk about what a great childhood he had, correct? Nods affirmatively. Yes? Yes. You don't talk about memories of him, correct? Correct. You don't talk about places you've gone together, correct? Correct. You don't talk about what he did to make you love him the way that you do, correct? But I have other letters like that. But we're talking about this letter. Right, I know, yeah. Which talks about jail and unaliving someone. I don't write it in this letter, but I've written other letters like it. I've written, you don't say any of those things, but you talk about jail and burying a body. I know, it's a poor choice of words. When I read this letter later, I was like, this sounds awful, but it was nothing. It was jokey, stupid letter that I dashed off before he left with lots of bad jokes and poor humor. But that's how I intended it, and I never imagined any of this. It sounds so bad now, but at the time I wrote it, it was just jokey and stupid. And I kind of get her on that. Like, you can make a joke about things and say something, in jest, and then having, in hindsight, it'd be just a poor, very poorly chosen thing to say, but we still don't know, because this letter was undated, so we still don't know when it was dated or when it was written. So I'm still questioning it, whether it was written before or not. All right, so okay, but I do have letters that I've written him just like that, listing all of his good qualities, listing good memories. I've written tons of letters like that, but you didn't put it in this one. I know, I should have. I wrote this stupid one, which is written all around the time that he ended Gabby. Object to the form. Objection. Yeah, way before. This was like May, before they went on their trip, and I just wanted to make sure. Well, we have to take your word for that, right? Yes. In this sentence, if you need to dispose of a body, I will. You have bring, and bring is crossed out. Why is bring crossed out? I was trying to remember how the joke went, and then I remembered it was show up. And it's like, the joke was a good friend shows up, okay, with a shovel and garbage bags. So baking, you're aware, are you not, that if you put a file in a cake and give it to someone in prison, that's a crime. Yes, but it's also a very funny joke in movies, somebody filing their way out of jail with a file. And as a matter of fact, the movie that I was thinking of when I wrote it was Wes Anderson, Hotel Budapest, where she bakes beautiful pastries, and in each one she puts a tiny spoon, and the guy digs himself out of jail. It was just a joke. And because you can't dig yourself out of jail, you can't file your way out of jail. It was silly. And you were thinking that at the time you wrote this. Yeah, okay. You realized that offering to help dispose of a body would be a crime. Of course, but it was a joke. You wouldn't really do that. It was, it's like joking. When I went to work in the World Trade Center, on the top floor, they had a place where tourists could come get, I think this is a typo, could come get your picture taken, leaping off the World Trade Center, and it was very funny, and you'd put a funny face, and then you'd pay your $10 and you'd get a picture of yourself falling off the World Trade Center, and that was so funny, and everybody had funny faces, and I'm saying this because at the time it was a joke. Okay. Later, when people actually did fall off the World Trade Center, it was not so funny. Well, this isn't so funny now that we know your son ended Gabby, is it? Exactly. Okay, why is it that you chose Romans 8:38 to quote in your letter? Oh, I love that verse because it shows how we can never be separated from God, the love of God has for us. And so I kind of used it to show that that's how powerful my love is. Just the way that we cannot be separated from God, our love could not be separated by anything that ever how is it worded? Things not here, things to come, nothing in the world could separate our love. I just thought it was very beautiful expression of love, and I used it to say that. That's how much all right, let's look at Love Brian. He cuts her off. All right, I'm sorry. Let's look at the language in parentheses in the bottom of the second page. It says, nothing can separate us, not hatred, not hunger, not homelessness, not threats, not even sin. Not the thinkable or unthinkable can get between us. Right. Murder is a sin, isn't it? Yes. Unliving is unthinkable, isn't it? Yes. Weren't you writing this to him to tell him that no matter what he did, you'd still love him and nothing could come between you? Well, actually, the reason I did this is in parentheses is because in my Bible, this is how Romans 8:38 is worded. But when I looked it up in King James Version, they actually use, or I don't know, maybe it's the King James Version, these words, and I said, oh, those words are nice too. Should I put the original or this version of Romans, or should I put the version of Romans? So I squeezed it in at the end of the parentheses. I had a little space, and that's where I wrote the extended version. Like there's two different versions depending on what Bible you read. Okay, and I'm like, that's a nice version too, but I was just saying, it was just being hyperbole, the word for just exaggerating. Oh, no matter what happens, I love you. Can you understand how it sounds like you're suggesting he did something wrong and you're telling him that nothing could come between you? I could see how someone could read it that way now, but at the time, that's not what I intended. And then you ended it by saying, not time, not miles, and miles and miles. Right. Were you encouraging him to run away? No, that just meant no matter how far apart we were, if we went to another planet, went to the moon, our love was just so, I love him. I love him. I always will. Maybe I'm too dramatic. I'm going to hand you what's been marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 7. Do you recognize this document? Yeah. What is it? It's my affidavit in support of motion for protective order. Okay, and this affidavit was written about the letter that we just went over. She was trying to get an order to not get this letter put into evidence, but that was denied. All right, so turn to the page. It says the purpose, paragraph 5, numbered 5. The purpose of this letter was to reach out to Brian while he and I were experiencing a difficult period in our relationship. What was that difficult period? Oh, he was leaving home and I was, and he had a new girlfriend, so we were not spending as much time together. Then nothing big, just not what it was when he was little. He was growing up. I sensed that she did not like that her little boy was being taken away by Gabby. I really get that sense. Anyways, okay. And I guess I was having more trouble with it than anything. I wish my kids would stay little, but I just wanted to reassure him that I loved him. Things were changing. He's growing up. He's taking a trip I wasn't thrilled with and just difficult. So you found out about the trip, I believe you said, a couple weeks before they left, right? I think it was like less than a week. Okay. But in the next sentence, you say, in the months prior to the trip, our relationship had become strained. Yeah. Why was your relationship strained? Well, like I was just saying, we weren't spending time together. I don't know. It wasn't the same as it was. And then you go on to note, Brian and I shared a love of stories, and some of the language in the letter was using similar phrases to determine the depths of a mother's love. The two books that come to mind are The Runaway Bunny and The Little Bear. Yes, the language in those books do you think is similar to the phrases that you used in your letter? Well, I know in Little Bear he went off to the moon, and the mother bear, there's a picture of her waiting for him to come back, and he comes back from the moon to see his mother bear. And then Runaway Bear was just how no matter what the bunny did, or Runaway Bunny, sorry, was just about how no matter what the bunny did, she would always love him. I forget the exact book, but it was like, I forget the exact lines, but whatever the bunny did, she would always love him. Well, there's nothing in those books about burying a body, is there? No. Nothing in the books about going to jail, is there? No. But that was the joke from the book of... No, but that was from the joke and the book from Gabrielle. It was sort of a combination of all these different references, and I knew Brian would recognize. Turn to the next page, please. Paragraph 8. I repeat that the letter I wrote to Brian before he left with Gabby for their fateful trip was nothing more than a private communication between myself and my son, and I never expected anyone else would read it. So what do you mean by fateful trip? Well, we wrote that after. I wrote it and then my attorney helped me write it, and we didn't know at the time it was fateful until now we know it's fateful. That trip that ended terribly. Well, one of the definitions of fateful is ominous, meaning you know that something's going to happen. Were you aware of that? Well, yes, because now we know something happened. So it was a fateful trip because that's how it's sort of like Titanic. That was a fateful trip. They didn't know it was going to sink, but it was like, oh, that fateful trip. And like a 3-hour tour. I was totally thinking that too. Yes, right. Was the word fateful in that? But they didn't know and they took it. All right, let's take another break. They take another break. Ms. Laundrie, were you aware that biblical scholars interpret Romans 8:28 to be about unaliving? Objective form, no. Okay, I have no other questions. I do not have any questions, according to Mr. Meltz. Mr. Gilbert continues, and I do not have any questions either. Remember that we talked yesterday with Mr. Laundrie about your right to read your transcript or waive that right. I would suggest that we read it if it's ordered. All right, so we'll read the transcript if it's ordered. And Madam Court Reporter, I can't remember if it said that yesterday, but to the extent either of these are ordered, if both are ordered, I do want a copy. The deposition was concluded at 11:52 a.m. The reading and signing of the transcript was not waived. All right. So that was the 10th day of November of 2023 was the date of this deposition, I guess. But it was filed, just FYI, it was filed recently. They've been made public on February 12th. So that is the deposition of Roberta Laundrie. What do you guys think about Roberta? I still have questions. I still don't feel like it clears up everything. I don't think it gives us any answers really, but what do you guys think? Don't forget to let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like this video and subscribe for future updates on this case and others like it. Hope to see you next time. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care. Bye.